Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content.
With that, Matt Hasselbeck, 18 years in the NFL, is joining us live. You know, Matt, it's interesting. I watched Philadelphia last night, and it just cracks me up. They're 4-0 since last season when they throw for under 100 yards, which usually, if you just look at a box score, you're like, oh, this is a mess. Burn the film. It's almost like Philadelphia that passing often gets them out of their rhythm. A.J. Brown had 5 catches for 27 yards. There is something about they're very comfortable playing big, strong, ugly football. It feels like to me they kind of love what they are. What do you see?
Yeah, I see a good football team. And, I said this last year to you, and, it's 1st and 10 for everybody else. It doesn't feel like 1st and 10 for Philly because of how good they are at the tush push. So that gets a lot of attention. But I just think it's an identity of who they want to be offensively. And, when you play a great quarterback, like I remember doing this a lot. You go up against a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady or somebody. Part of your offensive philosophy is to just keep that guy on the bench.
Yes.
And so, it's okay. You literally say it in the meetings. We're not going to try to throw for 300 yards this week. We're not. We're going to just try to run for 100. It's the mindset. It's not so much about the actual numbers, but it's the mindset. We're going to keep their great quarterback on the bench. Not only does that help your defense, I believe it actually frustrates that great quarterback and helps him and his offense get out of their own rhythm.
So I want to talk about, listen, Detroit, Ben Johnson leaves. It felt like Detroit said, all right, we're going to pounce a little bit here. And I've always defended it's not Jimmy Johnson. It's not my job to make sure the game's close. But it did feel like Detroit wanted to make a point by bearing the Bears. Did it not?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it almost felt personal, and I know it wasn't personal, but, I think this is probably the lesson for me in this game. Ben Johnson said, hey, I'm going to try to downplay the fact that I'm going back to Detroit. I'm going to because I don't want my team to feel that pressure. I disagree with that philosophy. I mean, I remember being, on the Green Bay Packers with Mike Holmgren as the head coach. When we would go back to San Fran, his old thing, it just elevated the energy in the entire building. Same thing when he was in Seattle. We'd go back to Green Bay. You see it with other different, coaches when they go back to coaching against their old program, against their own team, their old team. Just the excitement, the energy that it brings. It's almost like a playoff atmosphere inside the building, sort of like Wednesday to Friday, Wednesday to Saturday. And I think that's the better approach. And, the Bears just looked flat. Detroit treated it like Dan Campbell. You knew he would treat it. Yeah. And they came out and they looked like the team that they were last year.
Listen, you know this and I know this. We've been married for a while. Marriage is sacrifice and it's fit. It's like you see these Hollywood power couples and they both have great careers and it doesn't work, right? It's not they're bad people. I look at Ben Johnson, who is a timing and structure coach. He's got some Shanahan. He likes structure and timing. And I look at Caleb, and Caleb, after those opening drives, when he moves out of the pocket, sometimes his head is down. He's looking for yards. And I know it's early, Matt, but it feels like from a fit standpoint, this may not be perfect. It may not work.
Well, for Caleb, you better make it work because this is the best play caller and head coach and quarterback whisperer that you could be with. And, he did have a really good preseason game, and the theme of that game was rhythm. And by rhythm, you're meaning how many hitches the quarterback takes in the pocket. Is it 1, 2, 3, balls out, or is it just 1, the ball's out? And some of the great quarterbacks that play in an offense like this, that's kind of how you, I guess, would evaluate it when you're just watching it. I think the other thing that you would just say to Ben Johnson and to Caleb, what I would say to Caleb about Ben Johnson, just forget whatever you learned in high school and college. Forget whatever got you here and take this beginner's mentality of I'm going to do it exactly the way that you're asking me to do it. Because if there is some sort of I'm doing it one way and the coach wants me to do it another way, it's not going to work. And they're going to move on. He didn't draft you. You were there before him. And so you better buy in and be all the way on his program in terms of rhythm and timing, accuracy, all those types of things. And I think he can. But that would be the advice. You better be all in all the time and just do it his way.
So I watched Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy, and let me simplify it. Penix gets rid of the ball fast and accurate. And he's got a defensive head coach. And then I look at J.J. McCarthy with the brilliant Kevin O'Connell, and he holds the ball, and he doesn't get rid of it fast. And I do wonder what percentage of quarterback play in this league is get it out of your hands, because Penix is just see it, boom, out. And J.J. and Caleb, and especially J.J., he doesn't let it go. He doesn't let it rip. Then he looks overwhelmed. Then he loses confidence. And I mean, when I watch Penix, I'm like, oh, that works. That's what he did in college. It's see it, let it rip, trust your confidence. Is that part of JJ's problem? Is he's just not letting it go?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with Penix. You say see it and let it rip. I think it's more like anticipate it and let it rip. You got to throw it almost before you see it. And I think that's one of the things that Michael Penix did great at the University of Washington. He doesn't necessarily rely on his athleticism and legs. He relies on his eyes, his anticipatory reactions, and then his accurate throws. So for sure, I think the two young quarterbacks we talked about earlier, Caleb and JJ, like they got to let it go quicker, going back to the rhythm and the timing. You got to let it go on one hitch, 5-in-1 hitch instead of 5-in-2 hitches. Sometimes young quarterbacks can be a wait-and-see thrower. I want to wait and see, and then I'm going to let it go. And then, obviously there's some just mandatory things for quarterbacks. On an out-breaking route, you can never leave it inside. You talked about confidence. I think when you hold on to the ball, it doesn't necessarily hurt your confidence as a quarterback. It hurts the confidence of the offensive line. They might have done a decent job in pass protection, but because you held on and hitched it a couple, one too many times, it feels like they gave up a pressure. When quite honestly, maybe they didn't even give up a pressure. It just was you holding on to it. So that's something that, that young quarterbacks, I think, struggle with. I know I struggled with it. But you look at the game's best quarterbacks over time, they get the ball out on time and helps their team stay on track.
I was talking about this with my buddy John Middlecoff last night. Listen, sometimes as a quarterback, you get hurt. It's not your fault. You get blindsided. But when a quarterback like Joe Burrow or a Justin Fields get hurt time and time again, and Eli Manning never does, I do think a lot of a quarterback's health over the course of a career is, are you good pre-snap? Do you see the blitzes coming? Do you get rid of the ball quickly? Do you understand your personnel and where to slide protection and where not to? I don't think every injury for Joe Burrow is always on the bad O-line for the Bengals. I don't know. It just feels like to me we always blame the O-line, and it seems like the Bradys and the Elis, they get down or they don't get hurt.
Yeah, listen, protect the team by protecting yourself. You're onto something here. Obviously, this last injury on Burrow, it's, I'm not saying it's his fault, but, as a franchise quarterback, which he clearly is, one of the great players in the game of all time already, there's something to not being hurt. There's something to not ending the season on IR. Like the great quarterbacks, you mentioned some guys, but whether it's Brady or Breeze or Manning or Stafford, how many seasons do they end on IR? I think that's something that they learn. You see Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they throw a pick. Are they going after it and making the tackle? Sometimes they live to play another play. They just get down. So I think it'd be very easy to sort of blame the Bengals. Oh, the Bengals aren't spending enough money. They're not built. I could blame the Bengals for maybe not building the whole roster properly. But offensively, if they're going to give him the weapons, talking about Joe Burrow, that they're given to him, I think one of the best things that he could learn to do going forward is understand that, hey, by protecting myself, by learning to live for the next play, I'm really doing my part to protect the team. And, I love Joe. I love his style. He takes a bunch of sacks. His eyes are downfield. He makes a bunch of big plays. He's willing to put his body on the line. But at the same time, I think understanding your value to the team, that might be an area where, he's going to want to, I think play a little bit more like those guys you mentioned, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, because of his value to the team.
Finally, Mac Jones had his best game as a pro. He had no George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I said the playbook by Shanahan should be called quarterback for dummies. It's like everybody gets it. Mac Jones did not have a big arm. He's not super athletic. They asked him to throw 39 times on the road. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts want him to throw it 23. It's almost double the throws. And so I look at it yesterday and I'm like, Mac Jones looked great. what does Kyle do in terms of simplicity? He's got backup tight ends. Who are they? He's got to have some cheat code, does he not, for quarterbacks?
Well, if you were to talk to quarterbacks around the league, I think you would hear this. I think you would hear that Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur are the guys that they would want to go play for. And you see guys try to resurrect their career by going and spending a year with those kind of guys. And there are other guys, I'm sure. Daniel Jones spent some time with Kevin O'Connell. Like, there's other guys. But you saw what Sam Darnold did when he went to San Fran, was there as a backup, kind of resurrected his career. I'm sure that's what Mac Jones thought. Hey, listen, I'm going to go do that. Now, am I going to overreact because of a good game against the Saints? Like, no, not necessarily. But this is why Mac Jones chose to go there. This is why quarterbacks around the league sort of are jealous about the play caller, the scheme that is Kyle Shanahan, that is Matt LaFleur. But to overreact and think that maybe somehow like Brock Purdy's not like the real difference maker on that team. Like, to me, I think he is, but it goes hand in hand with a great play caller, great play designer, which they clearly have in San Fran.
I got to ask you this, one more thing. I don't know your injury history, but I said whoever Dak Prescott's surgeon is, he didn't get paid enough. Dak is so rejuvenated. His mobility is back. It's rookie or second year Dak. And his confidence, his body language, like Dak looked unbelievable yesterday. And the Giants D-line's pretty good. And they don't, CeeDee Lamb's obviously a special talent. Like, he's really good. But it's not a great personnel group up front for him. I don't know. I always thought pro athletes off surgery had to play their way back into confidence. I'm kind of blown away by Dak through 2 weeks. Can you explain it?
Yeah, I've heard you say it. It's the eye test. You see a guy right away, you can tell what kind of offseason he had, and there's off seasons that you have that aren't really successful. I mean, I remember I had one of those, I think 08, 09. Just like I looked at myself and I didn't feel fast. I didn't feel explosive. I didn't feel powerful. You've heard Dak Prescott talk about that this year, saying like, I didn't like how I was last year, especially as a runner. And so he's worked on that. I think he looks different physically. I think he looks different running the ball. He's been great. And I know this for a fact, as a player, as a quarterback especially, when you feel great about your offseason training, when you feel strong and fit and powerful and explosive, you feel confident. Like, you feel confident as a player, you just feel different. And I think your teammates feel it, and I think there's an emotional intelligence that kind of like rubs off on the sidelines. If you watch Dak this year, he's not like sitting on the bench, getting drinks and water and Gatorade and all that stuff the whole time. He's on his feet, he's dapping up his teammates, he's walking up and down, offense, defense, O-line. He's engaged. I just think that to me, that screams like a guy that had a great offseason. Whatever he did, it was great, and I think he should continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they asked him to throw against that front for the Giants 52 times, and yet he still had, at the end of the game, the energy to peel off, to throw 52 times in the NFL. That is, the calorie burn itself is insane. And then he peels off a run in overtime, and I'm like, dude, that is all-time stuff. That is impressive.
Yeah, and having his legs is an important piece to the puzzle of who he is as a player. When he came in that rookie year, when he replaced Tony Romo, he gave them a little bit of a boost with the mobility, with the naked bootlegs, and that one scramble that just breaks the defense back when they call the right play. So, that's an important thing. And this is a dangerous team with a great kicker. They're saying his range is like 70 yards. look out for Dallas. They're a lot better than people thought before the season.
All right. Matt Hasselbeck, as always, great stuff on a Monday. Yeah, I mean, you go look, folks, when you ask a quarterback to throw 52 times in a pass rush of the Giants and they're still scrambling for the first down late, it's impressive. Matt Hasselbeck, thank you for stopping by on a Monday. We still got a lot to talk about.